Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's Throwback Thursday, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite J-rock bands from the 1980s, Rebeca. But before I get into that, I just want to talk about how I first discovered J-rock. Unlike J-pop, I discovered J-rock much later, like in my teen years. Is when I really started to get into J-rock. And some of my favorite J-rock bands from the 80s are RC Secession, Princess, who also did music in the 1990s and also worked with Chisato Moritaka, and also Ayumi Nakamura. Please check her stuff out. She's very underrated. I could name so many rock bands out there, like even Minako Honda and the Wildcats. Like, there's just so many amazing J-rock bands out there from the past, and you guys have to check that out on your own. One band that comes on top of my list is definitely Rebeca, who is fronted by Nokko. And Nokko is one of the best female rock and roll singers out there. She could be compared to Joan Jett, Pat Benatar, Cyndi Lauper. She definitely changed the music scene in the 1980s. Rebeca was one of the most popular J-rock bands of the 1980s. They were very successful. Their most successful years was probably in the mid-80s, in 1986 to 1989. That was their most successful years. I actually have an article here from a long time ago that unfortunately I can't provide you the link to this article because it got taken down a couple of years ago, and it is originally from Cha Cha Charming magazine blog, where they talk about old J-pop from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And this particular article is explaining the history behind the scenes of what went on with Rebeca and how they came to be and how they became one of the most successful J-rock bands of the 1980s. The story of Rebeca. Contrary to popular belief, the 80s gave rise to some truly outstanding bands in Japan. Rebeca was one of them. Plagued by infinite band member changes, record company struggles, and solo recording temptations, Japanese pop rock band Rebeca just barely survived the 80s. However, it was this turbulence and tension, combined with talent and musicianship, to come out of Japan's lackluster music scene of the 1980s. There was never a dull moment in Rebeca's 5-year career. From 1984 to 1989, Rebeca churned out single after single, scoring hit after hit, while slowly replacing the manufactured idol singers who had controlled the charts for decades. Their approach to music didn't follow the similar rehashing of American tunes, nor did Rebeca succumb to the narrow-minded musical trends dominating the Japanese music scene. Lead singer Nokko, keyboardist Akio Dabashi, and bassist Noriyuki Takahashi, along with the string of guitarists and drummers, set out to create something different, equipped with a vision that kept Rebeca way ahead of their time, while never having to compromise their musical integrity. Rebeca was a dream of guitarist Kogure Takehiko, who in early 1981 recruited a bass player and a vocalist to make Rebeca a reality. The group managed a few rehearsals before Takehiko would get acquainted with Nokko, a young singer in an all-female band called Doll. This would mark the beginning of a long, volatile relationship for Takehiko and Nokko, and it was shortly after this meeting that Nokko joined Rebeca as their lead vocalist. When this early lineup began rehearsing and playing live houses around Tokyo, equivalent to rock clubs in America, they sparked interest in the Sony CBS Talent Scout. It seemed that Nokko and Takehiko were disappointed in their offer from Sony, as they both took a lengthy trip to America in March of 1982, hoping that an American record label would find appeal in their demo tape. Unfortunately, there was no response from America, and due to their shortage of money, Nokko and Takehiko were left with no option but to return to Japan. Disappointed and frustrated, Nokko and Takehiko decided to put Rebeca on hold until early 1983. It had been a tough beginning, but in 1983, things finally fell into place. In February, bass player Noriyuki Takahashi joined the band. A new drummer was hired in July. In August, they closed a deal with CBS Records, and by the end of the summer, they completed the band with the addition of keyboardist Akio Dabashi. Finally, Takehiko had seen his small idea for a rock band turn into something much grander. But sadly, it wouldn't be long before Rebeca would turn on its founding member. Although it was a proud moment to see the release of their first single, Wareham Boat Club, and mini-album Voice Print in the spring of 1984, the music was a letdown. Nokko sounds like a tormented child barely able to keep up. with the awkwardly arranged Wareham Boat Club. In a desperate attempt to sound new wave, Rebecca ended up overindulging in tacky synth lines, sounding more dead or alive than Devo. One would have almost given up hope for this promising new band had Virginity had not been released 6 months later. Virginity marked the beginning of the true Rebecca sound. It was the agitated sadness in Nokko's voice, the emotionally rich songwriting, and the simple musical deliverance that made Virginity nothing short of spectacular. Musically, Rebecca had finally developed a solid foundation on which to base their career. But on a personal level, tensions within the group could have been worse. Although no Rebecca biography directly states the following, one can gather that Virginity played a critical role in the battle between the band members. Kogure Takehiko, who had founded the band and acted as their leader and main songwriter, could take no credit for Virginity. It was Akio Tobashi who had stepped up behind the keyboard and proved his exceptional songwriting talents. When it became evident that Tobashi would replace Takehiko as the main songwriter, Takehiko reacted by quitting the band after a live show in Osaka, taking the drummer along with him. Nokko, Tobashi, and Takahashi were left stranded by their leader and forced to create another form of Rebecca. While this was a huge blow to the group, Tobashi was now free to pen the entire Rebecca repertoire, with an album worth of songs ready to go. Rebecca spent the early part of 1984 looking for a guitarist and drummer replacements. By the time they released their third album, Wild and Honey, in May of 1984, it seemed that finally something had clicked into place. The album went number 6 on the Oricon charts, an indication that Rebecca had at last infiltrated the mainstream. It was a worthwhile accomplishment, but in the country, where usually most artists come with a pending expiration date, Rebecca would have to prove their longevity. Nokko revealed all too quickly that she was just the kind of artist Japanese music fans were longing for. Having settled into her high-pitched, passion-fueled voice, Nokko satisfied Japan's need for an authentic rock and roll frontwoman. She challenged the artificial image of idols like Seiko Matsuda and Pink Lady. Her preference for jeans, torn dresses, and little makeup showed a girl far more interested in music than her image. Although no one can deny that Tobashi was the creative core of the band, Nokko did contribute lyrics to every Rebecca song. Their songwriting partnership produced 13 hit singles, keeping Rebecca in the top of the charts for over 5 years. It was in October 1985 that Nokko and Tobashi's songwriting collaboration had resulted in a phenomenal piece of pop rock. The song was Friends, and it became Rebecca's biggest hit to date. For those who haven't paid attention to Rebecca's previous singles, they were certainly paying attention now. Friends turned every single music fan onto Rebecca. It was one of the greatest records of the 80s, and even made the top 10 again in 1999, when it was released as a remix. Not a crappy techno remix, just a fresher version of the song. 2 weeks later, Rebecca were out with their 4th album, Rebecca 4 Maybe Tomorrow, which thanks to the success of Friends went straight to number 1. But even as Rebecca were enjoying their days as one of Japan's most successful rock groups, personal issues continued to pervade the band. In 1985, their guitarist left in hopes of forming his own band. Even permanent members like Tobashi and Takahashi put Rebecca on hold in order to release solo records. And Nokko, who seemed most dedicated to her band, began producing films in mid-1988. So many disruptions, yet the music never suffered. Rebecca continued to release records at a frightening speed until the end of 1989. Although they never saw a hit like Friends again, and subsequent albums Time and Poison debuted at number 1, Tobashi and Nokko's songwriting partnership remained strong until the very end. Supergirl, which metal guitar wizard Steve Vai appears on, Vanity Angel, and Moon were some of Rebecca's last singles. Yet the songs were still fresh and exciting. After playing their last concert at Tokyo's famous concert hall Nihon Budokan, Rebecca called it quits. Nokko continued her musical endeavor as a solo artist, but her records could never match any of Rebecca's musical accomplishments. Although Rebecca temporarily reformed in 2000 for a one-off single, the band was unable to capture the magic of their formative years. That's the story of the band, named after Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm, the novel. Like all bands, get into scuffles, they get into fights, and they have tensions, and it's really difficult for a band to form because you're not gonna get it right away, you have to go through a lot of hardships in order for your band to become successful. And they started off, their humble beginnings with Virginity and with Voice Print and Wareham Boat Club. And to be honest, I'm a huge fan of their earlier stuff because I really like that new wave-ish sound that they had in their early albums. But starting from Maybe Tomorrow, that album, to Blondsaurus, their sound really changed when they started doing Maybe Tomorrow, that album. From that album to Blondsaurus, their sound completely changed. It started getting more poppy, and that's probably because of pressures from the record label, CBS, Sony, because they had to appeal to a mainstream audience. And their earlier stuff was kind of like more indie. It was kind of like alternative, like something that you would see in the underground. But like always, most bands have to become mainstream in order for their music to be popular and successful. So I still like Rebecca. I still love all of their albums, and it sucks that they broke up in 1990. And I also like some of Nokko's other later stuff when she started doing like house music and techno music. And there's this concert that's called Club Hallelujah where she sings all of her songs. So now I'm going to be showing you guys my Rebecca CD collection. Here is Voice Print, 1984, their debut. It's like a mini EP. I don't think it's an album, I think it's more like an EP. And I absolutely love the cover art and the back with cactuses and stuff like that. They were trying to be edgy at the time, It's very new wave. And that's the CD, and that's Nokko. She looks a lot like Sheena Easton, right? And those are the other band members. And it's full of lyrics. Japanese lyrics. I just am in love with their early stuff, especially from this album. I really love Wareham Boat Club, despite what the critics said at the time in the 80s that she sounded like a toddler. I don't think that's true. And there are so many clips of her singing this song in the early days in 1984. And there's also this video a long time ago that got taken down where she's singing Wareham Boat Club and in this stage that looks like Pac-Man. So it was really cool because video games were really popular at that time, like arcade games. I also like Women's Holiday and The Nightmare, of course, and Queen of Venus. Oh, I love that song, the last song, Queen of Venus. And I wish they had more performances of Queen of Venus. There's this concert that has never been released, but they have like clips of it online from 1985, and she sings this song along with Wild Eyes. Man, those years were amazing. Nothing to Lose, which is the second EP, and I bought this on eBay. I bought most of these from eBay, and they still have the original Obi. It has the Obi on it, and it has the songs Virginity, Subway Panic, Precious Star, Caseron, Paseron, Stephanie, Nothing to Lose. Actually, I like all of these songs from this EP, especially Virginity, Subway Panic, Precious Star. And it's really weird because whenever I listen to this, I feel like I've always felt that I never belonged in my generation because most people in my generation don't listen to this kind of music. So I've always felt like I don't belong. So like whenever I listen to this, I feel like it's just like this weird out-of-body experience, like of deja vu. Like you actually feel like you were there. Like I feel like I was there in this time period. I don't know why. I love this picture, by the way. And that's their band logo. And the CDs for their earlier albums are really hard to find on eBay. So if you want to get at a cheap price, then take advantage of the opportunity because you won't be able to find them later on. I mean, it took me years to get all the albums. That's the lyrics. And this album is also the same as their first one. It's pretty much new wave, rock and roll, very alternative. And this is early Rebecca. And this is a compilation of all of their songs from the previous two EPs. So it's basically the same exact songs. I just love the cover art. They were so creative back then. And it has the band, lyrics. I highly recommend you guys listen to the early stuff. because I think it's great. And I always like to play their music in the summertime. I don't know why. That makes me happy. The next album is the album that gave Rebecca their ultimate success, Wild and Honey. And this still has the original OB attached. It's actually very, very old. I love the back. And this is also one of my favorite albums too. I love Wild Eyes, Love Passion, Freeway Symphony. And there are some other songs that are not very popular, like Ogon no Hibi, Hitomi Otojite, Love is Cash. That was their single. I love the song because it kind of sounds similar to Madonna's Material Girl. And I also like the music video too. It's very cute. Koisura Omocha, Mugen Hiko, Shinkiru, Never Too Late. Oh, I love Never Too Late. That's a really good song, especially when she performed it live. And there was this show, I think, in Japan called Music Wave 1985, and they actually performed that year, and they sang the songs from Wild and Honey. And it's really hard to get Wild and Honey on CD and on vinyl. This is one of the rarest ones from 1985. Totally 80s, right? She looks like Madonna. Because Madonna was all the craze in 1985. I'm not a huge fan of Madonna, but I do love the 80s. Those are all lyrics. Rebecca for Maybe Tomorrow was also in 1985, and this was the album that went #1 in the Oricon charts, and it's one of the best rock and roll albums in Japan of 1985. It's amazing. And I also like the concert for this album as well, Maybe Tomorrow, 1985 and Christmas. And there are so many great songs on this album, like Hot Spice, Friends, Cotton Time, 76 Star, London Boy, Maybe Tomorrow, and their songs became progressively less new wave and more like synthy rock, more like pop rock. That's the CD. So as they became more mainstream, they got more popular and their sound started to change to appeal to the mass audience. Next up I have Time from 1986. And here it says Son ancien ami tient trop de place dans sa cour, sois patient avec le temps. I wonder if you guys can translate this in French and see what it means. Interesting. That's Time. I'm not a huge fan of this album. I only like Lonely Butterfly and It's Just a Smile. But I don't really like the rest of the songs. This was like an okay album. Not their best. And I also like Showtime Again, which is the concert for this album where they sing most of the songs. And my favorite part is the end of the concert where she sings Freeway Symphony. That was music. But this is Poison from 1987. Can't believe I forgot to show you this one. And this album is not as good as their previous ones from their early days, but it's still okay. My favorite one here is Olive and number 7, Nervous but Glamorous. The rest I don't really like. Lyric sheet. They kind of got too poppy around this time. It's still okay though. And I think with this album, I think they did a commercial for Sony or a stereo system or something. Olive from 1988, and this is a compilation of their greatest hits. So they're like remixes. So I wouldn't consider this to be an album. I think it's like a greatest hits type of album. So, as you can see, Nokko matured. And the rest of her bandmates as well. This was the late 80s. I also like When a Man Loves a Woman. I love that song too. And Raspberry Dream. I love the music video too, where she's in the desert. And the last one that I have from Rebecca is Blonde Saurus from 1989. And this album contains one of the very first songs that I discovered from Rebecca, which is Vanity Angel from 1989. It's a really, really cheesy video. You have to check it out. That's a little dinosaur here. So I do like Vanity Angel, and I also like Supergirl as well. I love the music video to that one too. A little of the lyrics to all the songs. And Steve Vai also plays guitar in this album. Has a bit of an American influence. You can see they got more mainstream, they got more popular. And unfortunately, I do not have their other album from their final concert, Dreams On, I think that's what it's called, where it has the songs from their final concert in 1990. But I did obtain this really, really special Rebecca songbook that contains musical notes to the songs of Rebecca. And I actually got this from a seller in Brooklyn. And I was like, I actually wrote to the seller on eBay. I said, "Seller, how can you possibly have this in your hand? This is so rare and amazing." And he had a really cheap price too, so I was like, I'm definitely gonna buy this. So I bought it, and I don't know if it actually came with a guitar, because it says sing along with guitar, but it's a songbook. And these are all the songs that it has. It has Wareham Boat Club, Virginity, Love Passion, Love is Cash, Hot Spice, Freeway Symphony, Con Time, 76 Star, London Boy, etc., etc., Vanity Angel, Supergirl. It has all of, well, most of the songs, not all of them. And I'll give you guys a little sneak peek. So that's where I'm Boat Club. The notes, right? And Virginity. So all the notes, see? So you would have to purchase your own guitar or whatever if you want to sing along to the lyrics or play them, play the notes. Cheap hippies. They have more of these songbooks on other Japanese websites, and they have a songbook from the Missing concert that I'm talking about from 1985, where she sings Queen of Venus. The notes to Queen of Venus are on that songbook, as well as pictures from that amazing concert, so I would love to own that. Oh my god, guys, I forgot to show you that I have Nokko's solo album, Call Me Nightlife, from 1993, also from Sony CBS. And this is when she went solo. As you can see, it's very 90s. And one of my favorite songs here is Call Me Nightlife, and I also like the song I Will Catch You. Like very house, techno. You guys know how much I love EDM music, especially from the 90s. I love house and techno and Eurodance, all that stuff. She was very much into the whole Native American spirituality, you know, fun style here. She has a blue wig here. So there you go, guys. That was my Throwback Thursday talking about my favorite J-rock band, Rebecca. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Also comment down below and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this. Also follow me on my Instagram and on my Patreon page if you want to donate, if you support my work. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys have a rockin' day. Bye.